There's Beer Can't Fix. That's Thomas Rhett and John Pardee at Kicks Country 92.9, number one for New Country, 932. It's at about this time on Wednesday mornings we place a phone call and talk with our friend Bruce L. Scheiner and find out a little bit about the law, oftentimes answering a question that you've submitted. Of course, the current situation has kind of slowed things down. Your questions aren't coming in as fast and furious as they once were. But that doesn't mean that I don't like to have a conversation with Bruce Scheiner, or in this case today, once again, with his son, PJ. So once again, we're going to drop a dime.
Time to call your lawyer.
Kind of an old expression, meaning we're going to make a phone call, and we're going to chat with PJ Scheiner from Bruce L. Scheiner and Associates. Good morning, PJ.
Good morning, Todd. How you doing?
Absolutely terrific. If you don't mind the humidity, if you don't mind the heat and swatting love bugs, then I'm doing fine.
That is absolutely right. But you know what? I think that the heat's good because the heat's helping us right now.
I think so. I do indeed. And it won't be long, as I was explaining to the audience a little bit earlier today, the company that I work for is now starting to talk about us going back into the studio, so I wanted to do these poolside patio broadcasts much longer, I don't think anyway. But that said, Bruce L. Scheiner and Associates, you guys know what the virtual workplace is all about these days, don't you?
We absolutely do, yes. For the safety and for the health of our clients, we have been working exclusively virtually, exclusively remotely, because, we don't want to be responsible for passing this on to anyone else
Right.
if we were to have come down with it ourselves.
Exactly. And you're doing the right thing. And the nice thing is that the technology nowadays allows you to even virtually, I think this is really impressive, you can even virtually legally sign documents, can't you?
Oh, it's incredible. Absolutely. In the past 2 weeks, I have done a virtual arbitration, virtual mediation, and virtual depositions, all from the desk in my house with a couple of computers, a webcam, speakers, and a microphone.
It's amazing. It really is. And I'm amazed, frankly, what I'm able to accomplish sitting on my patio with this rickety little setup that I have, including being able to talk to you on the phone. I wanted to actually, because I heard something about you, PJ, and, we kind of learned a lot about you and your involvement. You're growing up in a legal family, that kind of thing, over the past few weeks. I heard something about you I wanted to kind of pick your brain on. I know that you belong to an organization called Captains for Clean Water, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
And the mission of the organization, to me, seems to be protecting our waterways. And I think most of us, we get it. Our water in Florida is everything and oh so important, but we don't know the whys and wherefores so much. I know that there's a lot of legislation that's pending and that kind of thing. Can you kind of bring us up to speed? Give us a snapshot of what the captains are working on.
Sure. Well, and as you said, our water truly is everything. Our water drives our tourism. Our water drives our way of life. I was lucky enough to basically come into this world with a fishing pole in my hand, and it is our way of life. And so Captains was founded now several years back to try to protect that because unfortunately. Not everybody who shares our resources in Florida shares our interest in preserving those resources, right? With water being on the very top of that list.
Exactly.
So right now there's, a lot of good work has been done. A lot of positive progress has been made with respect to our water issues, and you can actually see the results of that. If you've gone out and you've gone to the beach or you've even driven, the causeway and seen the river quality, you've seen lately that our water is looking pretty good. And one of the big reasons that our water is looking so good is because the Lake Okeechobee, the way it's been managed over the course of the last year or year and a half, has worked to reduce the big scale Lake Okeechobee discharges. So one of the real damaging factors to our local water quality is when a lot of water is released at one time from Lake Okeechobee. Because our river, the Caloosahatchee River, a lot of people don't know this. The Caloosahatchee River historically, originally, never connected directly to Lake Okeechobee.
Oh, is that right?
The Caloosahatchee River, its natural headwaters were Lake Hicpochee, which was a small lake just off the boundary, or just off the border of Lake Okeechobee.
Uh-huh.
But in order to facilitate commerce, in order to allow better transportation, they connected the Caloosahatchee directly to Lake Okeechobee,
uh-huh,
because they wanted to be able to take boats all the way across the state. And I've used the Intercoastal Waterway myself to navigate across the state to the East Coast through the Caloosahatchee River.
Right.
But in connecting the Caloosahatchee River to the lake, and then in trying to manage the lake level, the unintended consequence was subjecting our local estuary to higher quantities of freshwater, discharges or freshwater flows. And so the big deal or one of the big deals that we're working for is to try to manage the amount of Lake Okeechobee water that is pushed down our river at one time. Because if you push too much of that water, what it does is it disrupts the ecosystem. First of all, it causes our water to get real murky,
yes,
right? Because, if you push a bunch of water down a river, water stirs up the bottom, gets muddy, gets murky, looks that nasty, sure, brown that, we're used to, and it happens when it rains. But it also happens sometimes after it rains, just because of the amount of water that's being pushed out of the lake. So the lake has been managed real well the last year, which has allowed us to not be on the receiving end of these big, heavy discharges.
Right.
And what's at issue now is there's actually something going on in Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Congress is having a hand in deciding how the lake is being managed for the future. Okay. And the critical issue here is we in Southwest Florida, we want the lake to be managed responsibly so that the lake level goes down during the dry season, okay,
right,
and then goes up during the wet season.
The way nature intended it. Yeah.
Exactly. And if the lake doesn't go down enough during the dry season, then guess what? The wet season comes, the rain comes, the lake gets too high, and then they have to push a bunch of water out of the lake, down our river, blowing up our local estuary.
Sure.
And so the Army, and this gets real complicated, Todd, but I'll try to simplify it the best I can. The Army Corps of Engineers has the responsibility of managing the level of Lake Okeechobee.
Yes.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
And actually it was the Army Corps' judgment to manage it the last year, to let the lake get lower during the dry season, so that number one, the lake could heal, because the lake actually does better at lower levels because it promotes more aquatic vegetation growth, right?
Okay.
And also lower the lake so that our estuary and on the East Coast in Stewart, so they didn't have the risk of these big discharges, because our estuary was real damaged by the 2016 discharges.
Oh, the algae yeah. Oh my goodness.
And then you had the algae bloom issues, but you probably got a lot of guys who love fishing as much as we do, listening to us right now. And after 2016, it was hard to find an oyster bed. Even at the mouth of the Caloosahatchee River, a lot of the oysters had died because
I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened when oysters require a certain salinity range, and when you have sustained, huge freshwater flows, it kills the oyster. So, bottom line is, up in Washington D.C., they're working right now on weighing in on how the lake is going to be managed, and there are some interests out there that want the lake kept as high as possible as all the time,
year round,
because they want the lake water available to them for their own use. Okay, and I don't want to get I don't like getting on the air and pointing fingers or blame game, that kind of stuff. But I think the important thing is that there are some people who are saying we want to keep the lake high because we want to have the water available for our use, and these people are not the people who are working for drinking water. Okay, so drinking water is a separate thing. The Army Corps has a responsibility to manage the lake to account for human consumption or drinking water, because there are communities that use the lake for drinking water.
Okay.
And basically, if anybody wants to know, the nitty gritty, right, the granular details.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
They can go to Captains for Clean Water online. They can go to the Captains for Clean Water website, and they can read all about it. captainsforcleanwater.org. But basically, we want the Army Corps to be able to manage the lake so they responsibly lower the lake during the dry season. And by the way, it is beneficial for our river to get a little bit of fresh water in a constant flow, right? Mm-hmm. A little bit of fresh water in a constant flow. That's good, that's healthy, that's natural, that's normal, okay. Right? Mm-hmm. And so during the dry season, we want the lake managed so that there's a little bit of water constantly flowing out of the lake, which naturally lowers the lake, okay? And then the lake gets replenished during the wet season. And the Army Corps can use meteorological information and forecast information, et cetera, to accomplish that. What we don't want is we don't want the Army Corps being told, you have to keep the lake super high as much of the time as possible because we want to be able to provide water for one special interest group, okay, which then causes a high lake and massive discharges that damage the water quality in our community.
Okay, so really this is sort of the classic David and Goliath story, special interests, and they wanted a certain way, and as a citizen and a water lover in Florida, we need to take some things into account before we would greenlight anything like that, and it sounds like the website that you told us about a moment ago really has got a lot of information about that.
It does, absolutely. If you go to captainsforcleanwater.org, it actually in the top right corner of your screen, you'll see a red box that says urgent, take action now. Mm-hmm. You can click on that box. You can get, all the information that you want to get. You can, it'll reference the actual laws that are at issue here and walk you through some of the history. But yeah, I hope we can stand together as a community and make sure that the lake is managed for the benefit of our state, not for just the benefit of one special interest.
Well, and that's why I wanted to talk to you. Like I said, I think most of us don't have the proper education to know the facts. And I know that our audience is very savvy, very smart, very concerned. If they're presented with the facts, they'll make the right decision. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because we just need pointing in the right direction. And it sounds like Captains for Clean Water. Is that a .org, by the way?
Yes, captainsforcleanwater.org.
Okay. That would be a good place to get started and getting that education, getting that information.
That's what we're working to be. We're working to, be a resource for our community. We're working to fight for what our community's interest is.
Obviously, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, you're obviously so passionate about this, and it makes me wonder how you have time to devote to all this knowledge, information, education to the community when you're a busy attorney at the same time. I don't know how you squeeze it all in, my friend.
Well, Todd, one of the things about the practice of law is you learn to learn a lot about a lot of different things, right?
True.
When I handle a case, I got to know everything about every dimension of the case, including medicine, including, physics, including, material science. And so this is just another dimension of that. I'm learning about hydrology and water flow and water quality,
right?
Because it's something I care about. I am raising my kids in this community. I was out with a fishing rod on the river with my son Jet, just last weekend.
Right.
So this is our home, and we gotta stand up for it.
Your dad has pointed that out numerous times that he made this area home for him and his family, and so you do whatever you can to give back to the community, and this is just another example.
Well, thanks, Todd. Those are kind words.
Thank you, PJ. I appreciate you filling us in on this important information. We'll make sure to give that website out a couple more times so everybody can go and find out for themselves what needs to be done. Thank you for your time.
Hey, Todd, thank you. Have a great day, and I'm glad to see our community healing and hopefully safely and responsibly getting back to work and life.
We're doing it. And PJ, you take care of your family now.
Hey, thanks so much, Todd.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye. PJ Scheiner, ladies and gentlemen, from Bruce L. Sheiner and Associates. Now, if you have any follow-up questions, what I'm going to tell you to do is I'm going to have you call their Port Charlotte office. If you have any legal questions, you can call their Port Charlotte office as well at 941-743-7777. That's 743-7777. Tell them that Todd Matthews sent you from Kicks Country 92.9.